Hello.
Hello, hello.
Once again, I'm Jody.
I'm Reggie.
And if you've gotten to this point in the book,
Y-
congratulations.
Well, and you will understand why Jody is already fatigued going into this because I am generating my butt off today. And she is wearing her out. Can you see it? Whenever her lip goes up, that's when you know I'm getting to her. But continue, honey.
So, um, if you've made it to this part in the book, you just left off where we were talking about human design. And here's the thing, I love diving into learning about what makes us tick, like what makes me tick, what, like, for me, having my own tool for self understanding, self reflection. You were actually just having this conversation this morning
I
with
was.
one of our children about the power of understanding why we respond the way we do, why we react to situations the way we do, and how when we are able to understand that better, then we're able to move through the life, actually our lives, more in a response mode rather than a reactionary mode, right?
Correct. Correct.
And I feel that that's one of the things that human design has done for both of us. And one of the things that human design, being as complex as it is, it does have a lot of layers, and it combines a lot of different um, tools and techniques. It combines things like ancient traditions like astrology and the chakra system, but it also brings in much more modern concepts like quantum physics. And the thing about any system like this, whether you're looking at a Myers-Briggs or a Clifton Strengths or Enneagram, which we talk about, it's really important. What are you about to say?
No, I was just laughing because you just mentioned quantum physics, and I just remembered a time when I came to bed one night and you were sitting there reading a quantum physics book in bed, and all I could think of, well, this night is not going the way I thought it was gonna go. That is not that is not the book of love I have found. So that just made me chuckle
That's an
remembering that
amazing book
story.
on quantum physics,
It
by the
is.
way. It's an
It
Italian
is.
author, and now I have forgotten its name because I wasn't thinking about it in a long time. But I do in my spare time.
He does in respect quantum physics. So for me, I will tell you what I love about human design, and I just love is it gives names to the things that I see around me and what happens all the time. I think one of the things that we're challenged with in life is like everybody wants to put a label on it, everybody wants to call it a certain thing, and that's why I get annoyed sometimes. It's like we don't have to this is what it is, this is how you feel, this is what you do, this is kind of, but it was for me, I found very interesting how here's this whole, we'll call it science, if you will, on human design that gives names readily to the things I would see around me that's happening all the time and how people are going and moving. And you're like, oh, yeah, that's right. Oh, yeah, that's right. And I think that's why for me, my buy-in is as deep as it is because it's just a great way of encapsulating what we see each and every day.
Right. And to add to that, it has practical value. And so with anything, you take the part that resonates with you, you leave the rest behind. Like I was saying, with any of these systems, with any of these, looking at your own self-exploration, understanding yourself, and then in turn being able to stand your partner, having a greater space of like, oh, that's why they do that thing that made no sense to you and doesn't seem to be in any way the way you would respond. But then you're like, oh wow, this helps to kind of put some
Yes.
pieces behind that, and it helps to give each other that grace that we talk about, right? And that awareness of they are moving through this world very differently than I am, and that's really okay. And they're doing it this, I know that's hard for you to have anybody moving through the world differently than you.
Yes, it's just I just hope that they will catch up one day. And you keep getting there, baby. Keep getting there.
So um so as I said, what I also like a lot about human design is that it offers a really kind of a clear way of how, like, we're in a decision making process and how we make decisions and how we move through decision making. And I was thinking about this when we talk about how in the first chapter of our book we talk about how was it love at first sight, and what was our initial response to each other, and how did we move from that initial reaction of being really enamored with each other to basically doing anything and everything to be together, and how we just continued to trust. And yes, we were leading with our heart, but ultimately what we were doing was trusting our initial guttural response, because Reggie and I both have the same, what's called authority, which gives you an indicator of how to make a decision that's right for you
Right.
in any situation. And for us, ours is a sacral authority, and it's an initial gut response. Like, we just have this knowing. There's nothing logical about it. It doesn't have it removes actually our thinking mind from the equation. And when we first met and we were first going through that time together of like, we just want to be together, we were just relying on that instinctual knowing of, we had no idea how it was going to work out. We had no idea when we'd even see each other again. We had no idea. It like didn't even make any sense if you put it on paper or you tried to talk
Right.
it out. There was nothing, but we kept following our guttural, our knowing. We kept following what we knew we needed to be together, and we just kept following that.
Which is a little more challenging for me. I think being with you and just being so into you made it easier for me to overlook these other aspects of myself, which usually will kind of pull that and keep that in rein. You know, I do want to know the steps, how I'm going to get to that. I do need to know that, oh yeah, I see a path to success here. It does need to make sense to me. I have a mathematical kind of mind, this formula, da 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 da, you put this in. But this is like, usually it will stop me at a certain point from continuing down the road because it doesn't
Right.
make sense.
Right.
This does not. And so many times we'll talk about things like that makes no sense whatsoever. And I cannot continue to support something that makes no sense to me. But here I was in this relationship that really did, you know, if I put it in my calculator, it would have
Made no
it would have
sense.
broke the machine.
Yeah, yeah.
And normally I would stop myself. And I did find, you know, there were times that I would almost come up with reasons why, well, maybe, you know, maybe I should give Jodie some time and let her, you know, experience this and do this, that I would almost find ways because my mind was going,
Your logical brain was,
okay, well, if this is going to work,
yeah.
then this needs to happen. And the only way this can happen maybe is if I give her time and space, you know, that kind of stuff would start, you know, but that was like a year later or something like that. Those things, the first year
Right.
was like, I was just like, oh, I'm riding this, I'm just going. And if I'd known or seen you reading that
Physics, the quantum
for
physics
the
book.
quantum physics, because a woman who looks like this reading quantum physics is normally going to be smart enough to know I don't need to be with this dude at some point in time, and I would have been fine realizing you were going to kick me to the curb eventually.
But I think back on that, and I think how powerful it was that we were both following our authority, and we happen to both have the same authority. So in decision making, that is helpful for us. Not every person has what's called a sacral authority. And again, it kind of put the name to it years and years later when we understood that about ourselves, that to this day, we can get caught in the logical thinking because our
yes,
brain wants to do that. The rest of the world around us wants to tell us, you need to have A plus B plus, you have to do it a certain logical way. When really, when there's something that we both feel drawn to or desiring or whatever it may be, whether we're creating it together or individually, when we follow that initial instinctual knowing and we keep on it, we can look at so many times. And since then, even stuff like with our kids and with Rosie, you know, you've gotten through that chapter and you've learned how so much of what navigated us during that time was overriding the logic or overriding the
right,
experts and trusting what we knew at some level that we couldn't always put into words, that couldn't always make sense to us. But human design is one of those things that starts to put it into words for us.
yeah,
And human design helps us be like, oh, that's why I knew that I just needed to do that thing. And that you can see when we stray away from that,
oh yeah.
when we can also find patterns in our lives and our relationships when we were like, we weren't following our instinctual
Yeah, yeah.
understanding of
If
things.
anything, we talked ourselves.
Yeah.
I look back and I don't really look at mistakes as much as I look at learning experiences. And a lot of the learning experiences I've gone through were times when I felt I should be doing a certain thing or doing, but my mind overrode it and said, no, 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 no. It makes more sense for you to do this. You know, my latest example being moving from one job to the other job
Within a
that
company.
did not work out. And There was a part of me that's like, don't do it. But the mental piece came up with all these great reasons why it was the right way to go.
It
And
looked really good
I
on
kind of
paper.
talked myself into it. And yeah, and it didn't work out.
But it did, didn't it, though?
Well, it did, and the fact that
and
it forced me into doing things I wanted to do sooner that I should have been doing
Yeah.
sooner. So it was, as most life experiences have taught me, even in the chaos of whatever, there's all this other great stuff waiting to happen. And that's why I think it's, for me, it's been much easier embracing just life as it comes and understanding that the things we think are the worst things that could ever happen are sometimes the best thing that ever happened to you. So
Well, and that also speaks to another aspect of human design that I really find key is what's called your not self theme, or kind of, it's kind of like your personal red flags, like the personal indicators of you might want to move in a different direction than what you're doing. Because human design is this energetic blueprint, or this idea that when you're in flow and when things are aligning, life is coming towards you and you're moving through life. Yes, there's challenges. Yes, there's obstacles, but it's not this constant bang your head against the wall, fighting, frustrated. And for us, our red flag indicator, which also happens to be the same, is frustration. And so when we are experiencing frustration in any situation that starts to really cause us to go, like, we've talked about this before, little things like when we're making air travel plans or trip, we're going to go somewhere, we want to go see family, or we want to do something, we're trying to figure it out and it's starting to get hard, and we're like, why is this hard? This is not something that, what are we doing here? And so we take a step back and we kind of like, and usually something will present itself within a week or two that is like, actually this other thing came up that was of more a higher priority, or something we would rather do, that if we had forced the situation. And so in the moment that we're feeling frustration because we're thinking, well, we want to do this thing, we want to go on a trip together, we want to go, we need to go see this family member, how are we going to make this work, this isn't working out, the flights aren't lining up, all these things, and you feel this frustration. But when you can start to acknowledge, wait a minute, maybe this frustration is actually just a redirect, and it's kind of, all right, let's kind of take a step and pause and like see what needs to settle out or what needs to come to the surface in order for us to move forward. And then it all flows. And it's
kind of crazy how it happens.
kind of crazy how it flows when you can stay in that space. And so those are the things that I think are some of my favorite things about human design. And then I've said a few things that we have similarly, or that are similar. Both are, what I just had said, like our frustration and our sacral authority. But the thing that we do a little differently is Reggie's a generator and I'm a manifesting generator. And so while there are still some similarities in there, like he was saying this morning, his level of energy and energizing is just a lot. If you have listened to the podcast, if you have spent any time around us, you understand this level of energy. And it was really helpful for me to understand that part of this is how he's literally just wired, and he is always on, and he has this energizer bunny constantly able to just turn things and go and shift and move, and it's this high vibration which is really magnetic and really powerful, and I love it, and I need a break sometimes. And I have a lot of energy as a manifesting generator. I am also highly energized, but it's not at the level of this person's energy. And so it also was really helpful for me to realize it's not my job to constantly try to match his energetic level, because that would actually drain me more, even though I had plenty of energy, but mine, I like to focus it a little more specifically. And he's just energy all the time.
But the funny part I find though too is that energy all the time, that volume gets turned up. I can do 20 things, but if they're all things I really wanted to do or haven't,
it's off the
then it
charts.
just,
Oh,
but if those are 20 things that aren't really what,
that's really
then
challenging.
that
That
energy
is true.
level is down here. And it's like this morning, I did a couple things that I wanted to do this, I wanted to do this, and then, and in the moment of, okay, I'm going to do this, and sitting down and doing it. And then I got to go through a lot of that. Okay, this isn't perfect. Stop, be quiet, just do it. Just put it down. Just getting through it and doing it. It kind of got me going a little bit more. So now I did all these things and I got even more energy than I had going into doing those things.
It's true. When a generator does the thing that brings them joy, it just creates more energy within them because that's kind of like that is your fuel. That is what.
Yeah.
And for a manifesting generator, yes, I'm here to follow my bliss. I'm here to move things at a fast pace and move through things quickly. But there is something, and it's again helpful in relationship when we learned about the way we come together and meet at an energetic level. It was really insightful, and it just gave me the permission to be like, ooh, I need to just go take a break from this high level
But you just went to
energy
Target,
person. I need to just have a few moments.
but you just got back in from going to Target. Why do you got to go back to Target
It just,
again?
and it's very, yes, important for me. So if you find human design is something you would want to explore, I highly encourage it. Just again, take what resonates, maybe do a deep dive like I will, or maybe you'll be like Reggie, who will find things that are really pertinent and practical and useful to how he moves through the world, and therefore how he sees and views the rest of us moving through the world and how we all come together. So hopefully you'll find something useful in there for you and your
And
relationship.
it'll help them catch up to me.
And maybe one day we'll all catch up to you. All right. Thanks again. We'll catch you next time.